The Gemara that we're learning is we're on page 29a, and we mentioned a story. We mentioned that Yanai, and we mentioned two names about Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Yochanan was a Kohen Gadol, a high priest, for 80 years, and in the end, he drifted off. He became a tzeduki. And the Gemara is debating if that's something that it only affects people who, when they were younger, they were wicked. And then when they get older, even if they are righteous, but they might end up turning back to their original ways. Or could it be any person? And the source that it would seem like it could affect any person is a Mishnah. It says, "Al tamen biatzmecha ad yom moischa." Don't believe in yourself until the day of your death. That means you never know if you're going to stay righteous just because you've been acting righteous. So what it seems like is there's two ways of understanding that. One is, or two ways of where that applies. Either that applies to all cases, or it could be qualified only when a person was not always righteous. They can't believe in themselves because they might end up going back to their old ways. But otherwise, if they've been righteous for 80 years or more, it would, then maybe you don't have to worry. And therefore, Shmuel HaKatan, in the Talmudic Shmuel here, the Gemara is discussing that we have to be concerned that maybe he drifted off because he made a mistake in the bracha of Alav Shinim. So the Gemara brought a source, Yochanan Kohen Gadol, he drifted off at the age of 80. But that's the question, was he ever wicked when he was younger? So one opinion is he was Yanai when he was younger, and he changed his ways. Now, who was Yanai? Yanai was a king from the Chashmonayic dynasty. That means the Chashmonaim started with the story of Hanukkah. They were very righteous people. And unfortunately, they ended their family ended, and with real just destruction. Even though they were so righteous, exceedingly righteous, and great people, and they really gave us the holiday of Hanukkah, and they brought salvation to the Jewish people. And nevertheless, they took over the kingship, and even though they were from the tribe of Levi, they were Kohens, they were the priests. Nevertheless, they ended up taking over. Because they won the war, they said they decided they'll keep the kingship to them, and they ran, and it developed into a kingdom of just wickedness. After generations, it became terrible. And so the story of Yanai, which is a sad story, I just wanted to share it. I just wanted to mention it. It's brought in the Gemara in Kedushin, the story of Yanai. And basically what happened was Yanai had gone to the city of Kochalis, a country of Kochalis, that's a certain country, and he conquered over there 60 cities. So Yanai was the king, and this is in the latter part of the second Beis Hamikdash era. So this is after the story of Hanukkah. The story of Hanukkah happened approximately 200 years before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So approximately 150 BCE, before the Common Era, and this is well after that. And but it's sometime after that, maybe, I don't know, maybe 50 years, 100 years. So the story is that he had conquered these 60 cities in this country called Kaichalis, and upon his return, he was exceedingly happy, and he arranged a celebration, and he called all the rabbis, and he said to them that let's eat meluchim. Meluchim was some type of a cheap food that the Jewish people who were there when they rebuilt the Beis Hamikdash, that's what they ate. Meluchim literally means salty things. So they ate these. So he wanted to serve it as a remembrance for. We should eat meluchim as a remembrance for our forefathers. So they put meluchim on their tables of gold, and they feasted. And so they wanted to remember their poverty and give thanks to Hashem for their success. So that was his idea. And then there was a certain person there that his name was Elazar ben Paira, and he said to Yana, he said, these rabbis are not exactly, they don't agree with you. They're not really joyful over your success. So he decided to create a fight here. And so Yanai said, the king, he said, what should I do about it? And how should I know that it's true? How do I know what you're saying is correct? He said, here, why don't you're the Kohen Gadol, because you're from the Levites, you're from the Kohens, which is from the Levite tribe. He said, why don't you take the tzitz and put it on and make the rabbis stand up? Because once you put the tzitz on, everyone who's around, the tzitz was that forehead piece of gold that had it in it inscribed God's name, and it was worn by the Kohen Gadol, and it went from ear to ear, and it had inscribed, engraved in it, Kodesh LaHashem. It said, holy to Hashem. And if he wore it, then all the sages, of course, would rise before Hashem's name. And he was like by putting that on, what he's doing is asserting that he is the Kohen Gadol. And then he would see what the rabbis have to say about it. And so he put it on, and there was an elder there, a rabbi, and his name was Yehuda ben Gedidya. And he told Yanai, he says, Yanai, King Yanai, you should be satisfied with the crown of kingship. Let the Kohen leave the kahuna crown to those that are from the descendants of Aaron. And what he was saying was that there was a story that went around that Yanai's mother was once captured in the town of Modian, and because of that, he might have lost his ability to serve as a kohen, because assuming that if his mother was captured, then we assume that she might have been she was raped, and because of that, we assume that the children are called chalolim. They lose their kahuna. They're no longer kohen. So that's so this rabbi Yehuda ben Gedidya, he said, Yanai, King Yanai, why don't you be satisfied with being king? Don't put on the tzitz. So the Yanai was like fed up, and he removed them he kicked them out of the feast. And then Elazar ben Paira, again, this man who wanted to start the fight, he told Yanai, he says, this is what you do. If a regular Jew was treated this way, it was embarrassed. It was one thing, but you're the king. This is what you deserve, to receive such embarrassment. People making fun of you and telling you not to. You don't belong to be the Kohen Gadol. So he says, so what should I do? So he says, my advice: you should destroy them, kill the rabbis.
Oh.
And so Yanai said, but what will happen to the Torah? So this man, Elazar, he said, listen, the Torah scrolls are rolled and it rests in the corner. whoever wishes to study it, let him come and study it. It's in the Torah scroll. So immediately heretical ideas were cast into the mind of Yanai, and Yanai should have said, that's good about the written Torah. What about the oral Torah? But immediately it says the evil burst forth on account of Elazar ben Peira, and Yanai executed all the sages, and the world was bereft of Torah knowledge. And until Shimon ben Shetach came and he returned Torah to its former stand where it was before, and that's the story of Yanai. It just gives you an idea of how of the wickedness of the king of the Hashmonaich dynasty, what it turned into. Yes, Ben.
Two things. I think the Meluchim, they probably what we call now chamutzim, that you put on the table, which is all pickled stuff, with salt and vinegar.
Maybe,
but, yeah. The story you just read, it's not from the Talmud, right? Because I couldn't find it.
It's in Kedushin, page 66.
Oh, okay. Not in the page we were reading. Uh-huh.
No, it's not in this Gemara. It's from a different Gemara. But that's the story of Yanai. But what it sounds like from our Gemara is he must have been young when that story happened. And then he might have then he did Shuvah, and he became the Kohen Gadol. It means that they did research, and it seems like they found out that he was kosher for Kahuna. In other words, it was a rumor that his mother was captured in the city of Modi'in. And it seems like he became righteous, and I guess, and sure enough, he became the Kohen Gadol. And at the end of his life, somehow he became a Tzeduki. That's the story. Okay, so then the Gemara that we learned yesterday, we spoke about the 7 blessings in the Shabbos Shemona Esrei, and we mentioned that it's Keneged, corresponds to the 7 times it says Koil Hashem ala Moyim in Psalm number 29, and the 9 blessings of Rosh Hashanah, which are really the 9 blessings that we recite in the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, because in the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, we do something, we recite a bracha called Malchiyos, kingship, Zichronos, remembrances, and Shofros, the shofar. So there's an extra 3 blessings. In other words, you have the beginning 3, you have the end 3, and then you have the middle 3. In the middle 3, normally on a holiday, we only have 1 in the middle. Again, we have 3 in the beginning, 3 in the end. Every Shemona Esrei has that. You have the same 3 in the beginning, the same 3 in the end. And then in the middle, on Shabbos and holidays, we normally recite 1 bracha, Mekadesh HaShabbos, or Mekadesh Yisrael V'Azmanim, or Mekadesh HaShabbos V'Yisrael V'Azmanim. And that's normally 1 blessing in the middle. But when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, we actually recite 3 blessings on the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. And one of those, so altogether it equals 9, because you have the first 3, the last 3, and then the middle 3. And so how do you, what does that correspond to? So we said it corresponds to what we learned in the afternoon, the mentions of God's name that Chana mentioned when she sang her prayer, thanking God that she finally had a child. In those days, one was allowed to have 2 wives, and she was one wife to Elkanah, but there was a second wife. The other wife's name was Penina. Penina had 10 kids. In the meantime, she had 0, and it was very painful to her, and ultimately she begged Hashem for a child, and Hashem answered her with a child and gave her a child, and that child's name was Shmuel, and that's the book that we're learning. And we learned the story. After she had that child, she gave a special praise to Hashem, the Shira of Chana's praise, And in that praise, she mentions Hashem's name 9 times. And we know that she was remembered on Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, there's a connection between Rosh Hashanah and those 9 mentions of God's name. Therefore, the blessing, the rabbi said, that's why we should include 9 blessings in the Shemona Esrei. Then the Gemara asks, what about the 24 blessings of a fast day? What that means is we normally have 18 blessings. And on a fast day, they would add 6 blessings into the Shemona Esrei. Altogether, it would equal 24. And these were done, these fast days were established when it didn't rain. In Eretz Yisrael and Israel, the Jewish people often were challenged with the fact that there was no rain. And the time it should have rained was any time between Sukkot and Pesach. And after Pesach, it's not good if it rains because it ruins the crops. But from Sukkot till Pesach, during the winter, that's the rain season. And that's when rain is needed. In order for everything to grow properly, you need to have a lot of rain. They need to have rain in Eretz Yisrael. And if it wouldn't rain by a certain date, they would establish fast days. And on those fast days, they would have a ceremony where they would recite these 24 blessings. And so these 24 blessings, what do they correspond to? So the Gemara says what they correspond to is the 24 prayers of songs that Shlomo HaMelech said when he brought the Aron, the ark, into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and it wasn't working. He couldn't get it in. And so we mentioned yesterday 2 explanations. One was the gates of the gates were locked; they wouldn't open up, and that's the gates of the doorway of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Another explanation was in the Medrash. It says that it wouldn't fit into the front door of the Beis Hamikdash. So it wasn't that they were locked; it's that they weren't that it didn't fit. And in any event, Shlomo HaMelech recited these 24 prayers, and then ultimately he said, "In the merit of my father David," and that's when Hashem showed that his father had been forgiven in a revealed way. When the doors opened, when he was able to get into the Beis Hamikdash, again the front door of the Beis Hamikdash. If you follow, according to that explanation, that what wouldn't open was the front door of the Beis Hamikdash. The front door of the Beis Hamikdash was 10 amos, and the ark was 10 amos as well, and it simply didn't fit. You need to have a little extra space, and then you need space for the person to walk through with it. So it didn't initially it didn't fit, and then miraculously it opened up, and the reason was because Shlomo HaMelech mentioned his father and the merit of his father. So that's the 24. That's the connection. That's the reason why we say 24 blessings on a fast day. The Gemara asks, maybe we should say it every day. Look at Shlomo HaMelech said 24 words of prayer. Let's do that. That sounds like a good thing. We should do 24 words of prayer. And the Gemara answers only when he needed mercy. It was a urgent matter. And here also we use it for times when we really need mercy, and that's when it didn't rain. So that's where we got up to, and we're up to the 2 dots. Any questions? Okay. So now,
Rabbi.
Yes.
Chana, who's the mother of Shmuel, is she the same Chana as Chana and her 7 sons, or that's a different Chana?
A different Chana.
Okay.
Rabbi,
Yes.
this has nothing to do with the doors that they couldn't open because King Solomon slept late.
No.
Okay,
No, that's not the same story. No, no.
they needed the keys then.
This is the building of it. Yeah, this
Okay.
is as they're building it. Yeah, that was when he slept late, and
His
right,
mother had to get the keys.
his mother had to wake him up, right? And the truth is, it probably wasn't so far off from this, because they're moving the Aron into there, and that was right at the beginning, right when they right when they inaugurated it. So okay, but it's not the same story, no. Rabbi Yeshua Aimer Me'ain Shemon Esrei. So now we're going back, and I'm glad Phyllis is here, because this is what you've been waiting for patiently. This is the discussion of what does he mean? What does Rabbi Yeshua mean when he says that you don't have to say a Shemona Esrei, you say Me'ain Yurches, an abridged Shemona Esrei, similar to a Shemona Esrei. And so the Gemara asks, let me start again. We're at the two dots, the last narrow line of the Gemara, which is like right in the middle of the page. Must be about 25 lines down from the top of the page, page 30. Rabbi Yeshua, Omer Me'ain Shemon Esrei. So Rabbi Yeshua says you do a bridge Shemon Esrei, a similar to Shemon Esrei. The Gemara asks, my Me'ain Shemon Esrei. What does it mean, a abridged Shemon Esrei? Rav Amar Me'ain Kol Bracha U'Bracha. So here we have an argument between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says, Me'ain Kol Bracha, you do a Me'ain, which is an abridged blessing of each of the brachas. And what that means is that you recite every single bracha. You still have 18 brachas in your Shemona Esrei. You're not going to cut out any bracha. You're going to have the full amount of brachas, but every bracha of Shemona Esrei has a whole paragraph. You cut out that paragraph. You only do like the first line of it, and then the bracha at the end. So you're cutting out some of the Shemona Esrei, but not the blessings. You're keeping all the blessings. And
Rabbi, would Me'ain mean the essence?
I guess that would be a good translation. Me'ain, I think that would be, if you want the literal, let me see. Yeah, I have a dictionary here, but I think that would be a good translation. It sounds good. I don't know where that dictionary went. I think that's a good translation. Okay. Does any what is the what are the English Gemaras say?
In Art Scroll, it says the middle 13 blessings are condensed into one blessing.
So Me'ain is condensed then.
Condensed, but I don't know if that's literal. Again, we're looking for the literal. I like Ezra's translation. Okay. In any event, the Gemara says that's Rav's explanation. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says Havinein. Shmuel says that the Me'ain Shemon Esrei means Havineinu Hashem Elokeinu, and he's going to recite the whole thing right here. So just stay, listen up to the middle blessing of the Shemona Esrei goes like this.
Rabbi,
Havineinu, yes.
I see in the dictionary, Me'ain means somewhat like, kind of.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely good. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Can you get through? Oh.
So that's the literal translation there. Okay, I still like Ezra's explanation as even if it's not literal. It's
the same.
The essence of. Yeah, I guess it pretty much means that. Okay, so Shmuel tells us that what is this abridged version? Let me just read it, everyone. Okay, so what is the Me'ain Shemona Esrei? So Shmuel has a different opinion. He says you don't recite 18 blessings. You only recite 7, similar to Shabbos actually, because you have the first 3 and the last 3 But the middle one is a merging of all the middle blessings. You merge them all together and into one. So you have Havinenu Hashem Elokeinu, give us Hashem our God, Ladas Drachecha, to know, give us knowledge, understanding, to know Ladas, to know Drachecha, your ways. And what that's referring to is the bracha of Atachainen. Umoylas Levavenu Liyarasecha. Circumcise our hearts to fear you. That's Hashivenu, bring us back to your Torah. And Vesislach Lanu, forgive us, that's Slach Lanu. Liyais Geulim, that we should be redeemed. And that's the bracha of Goyal Yisrael. And then Berachakenu Mimachayvenu, and remove us from our pains, from sicknesses, and that's Rifa'enu. V'dashnenu b'na'os artsecha, and give us, fatten us with the na'os artsecha, the beauty of your land, and that's the bracha of Barech Aleinu. Unafutzeisenu me'arba tekabetz, our scattered ones, you should, from the four corners of the world, you should gather together. And v'hatoyim, those that stray, v'hatoyim al daitza, against your will, yishpoitu, they should be judged. And that's the bracha of Hashiva Sheiftenu Kibarishayna, restore our judges like the earlier times. Ve'al harashoyim tanif yodecha, and on the wicked you should wave your hand. And that's the bracha that was added for against the minim. And the next bracha, the next words, the yismachu tzadikim, and the righteous should rejoice, v'vinyan irecha, with the building of your city. And that's the two brachas of al hatzadikim for the righteous, and the bracha and Mishan Miftach Latzadikim, who gives support, security for the righteous, and then the bracha of building Jerusalem, B'nai Yerushalayim, uvasikon heichalecha, and in establishing your Beis Hamikdash, your heichal, your hall, your
it says your sanctuary, your sanctuary.
Thank you. That's right. That's a better word. Ubetzmichas keren leDavid abdecha, and the next bracha is a semach David, the semach, the growth of David, your servant, meaning the coming of Mashiach. So tzmichas keren leDavid abdecha, with the growth of the horn of David, your servant, the shine of David, your servant, which means the kingship of Mashiach. In Barichas Ner leben Yishai Mishichecha, and the establishing a candle for Ben Yishai, the son of Yishai, your anointed one, and that's the bracha of Matzmiach Keren Yeshua, bringing salvation and to flourish. And then you have the Terem Nikra Atasana, before we finish calling, you already answer us. Before we call, you answer us. Is Baruch Atah. That's the bracha of Baruch Atah Hashem Shemet Tefillah. That's the bracha Shemet Tefillah, and that's the full wording of the Havinenu bracha. And that's what Shmuel says is what Rabbi Yeshua means, that a person should recite this every day. You don't have to say the full Shemona Esrei. You say this. And the Mishnah mentioned that Rabbi Gamliel argued. He said you have to say the full Shemona Esrei. Rabbi Yeshua said you say this, or Rav holds it's a little different version. He holds you say 18 brachas. You just skip out, some of the paragraph of each bracha. But Shmuel says this is what Rabbi Yeshua means. And Rabbi Akiva says it depends. If the prayer is shigura b'fiv, if it's fluent in your mouth, then you recite the full bracha, 18 brachas. If not, you do this. You can say this bracha. And And so the Gemara continues, and it says, "Layit Allah Abaye." Abaye cursed on a person, on man de matzli havinenu, on someone that praised the havinenu bracha. Why did he curse the person who says the havinenu? Because he's skipping out all the other brachas. He's only doing one bracha. He's skipping all the brachas. He's putting them all into one. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman says in the name of Shmuel, Kol Hashana Kula, a whole year long, Misbala Ladam Havinenu, a person can daven Havinenu. Chutz mi might say Shabbos and we might say Yom Tovim, except the end of Shabbos and the end of Yom Tov, that Ma'ariv prayer, because you need to recite Havdalah in Chaynein Hadas. In the bracha of Ata Chaynein, you're supposed to recite the Ata Chaynein Tano, the Havdalah. And in this little prayer, you don't have that. So because of that, you can't recite it on Saturday night or night after a holiday. So Maskifla Rabba Bar Shmuel. Rabba Bar Shmuel asks, the name Rab Bracha Ravias B'fnei Atzma. Why don't you just make a bracha on its own? Give it its own bracha. Miloi Tanan, don't we learn that Rabbi Akiva says, Oimra Bracha Ravias B'fnei Atzma. Recite it. Rabbi Akiva holds that you're supposed to recite a bracha, a fourth bracha of its own, the Havdalah blessing in the Shemona Esrei. So, in Rabbi Eliezer says, Rabbi Eliezer, I'm in Bahaidah. You say it in the Haidah, in the Maidim section of the Shemona Esrei. In that section, you recite the Havdalah. So there were two opinions. So the Gemara says, why don't we just do it like make it a bracha revius? We use it, recite it as the fourth blessing. Again, this Shemona Esrei with Havinenu has 7 blessings. You have the first 3 and the last 3. And then you have a middle bracha that's an amalgamation of all of the other brachas. And why don't we just recite this additional Havdalah? Recite Havdalah. Why can't you say Avinenu on a Saturday night? Recite a bracha on its own. We have Rabbi Akiva holds, you recite it as a fourth bracha of its own. So the Gemara says, a whole year round, do we follow Rabbi Akiva? All of a sudden you want to follow Rabbi Akiva? Atu kol hashana kula, the whole year round, mi of dinan Rabbi Akiva, the hashtanami navid, that now also we should follow Rabbi Akiva. Does that make sense? That we should make a new ruling and follow Rabbi Akiva? We don't follow Rabbi Akiva. So the Gemara says, Kol Hashana Kula, my time alay of dinan for Rabbi Akiva. Why all year round don't we follow Rabbi Akiva? Because Tmani Sri Tikkun, Chasrei Loy Tikkun, because they establish 18, not 19. Hachanami Shva Tikkun, Tmani Loy Tikkun. And here also, we can't follow Rabbi Akiva because you're supposed to do 7 and not 8. There's a certain rule. Why did we have 7 brachas? It followed the word koil in the Psalm 29. So how could we establish Havdalah and make the Shemona Esrei 8 blessings? We don't have any 8 blessings Shemona Esrei. There's no source for that. So the Gemara says that because of that, you cannot recite the Havinenu blessing on a Saturday night. Yes, David.
Yeah, this combination bracha, the all-in-one bracha,
Yes.
it's where it says Hatoim al datra yishaftu or yashafetu.
Yes. Yes.
And then it says Va'al Shoim. So over here it translate Vahatoim, the ones that went astray. So I'm thinking maybe that they're saying that the Tzedukim, because they didn't really understand the whole, well, whatever it is, the Tzedukim, they were the ones that went astray. Whereas the Rishonim, that's the Minim, that's the heretics. The Tzedukim were once on the right path, but then they went off and they went astray because they didn't accept the oral Torah. And the Rishonim were the Minim who, from the outset, just denied Yiddishkeit and denied belief in Hashem. Does that make sense?
Well, one second. Rashi over here tells us what this. It is a little strange. I will tell you the wording of v'hatayim al daitcha, those that stray against your words. But Rashi says they should be judged. So Rashi says that's referring to tzedakah u'mishpat. That corresponds to melech hayiv tzedakah u'mishpat. Then Rashi says lashon acher, another explanation. V'hatayim b'mishpat al daitcha yishpatu hashivam lalamdam lishpat kidvarecha. Those that mess up in your judgments against your wishes, you should judge them. Meaning, you should teach them judgment, that they should judge properly. So, and Rashi says v'chein ikar. That seems to me the best explanation. So it's really someone who judges improperly, and that's how it fits. In other words, otherwise, what does it mean? Hatoyim, it sounds more like what you want to say, David, that it should be like on the people who stray. What does that have to do with judging? Again, let's read the bracha of judging. It's Hashiva Shefteno Kivarishon, to restore our judges as in former times, and our counselors as of yore. Remove from us sorrow, sighing, and reign over us, you alone, Hashem, with kind passion, righteousness, justice. Blessed are you, Hashem, who loves righteousness and justice. So that bracha doesn't sound, why would we be saying something about people who stray? So because of that, Rashi says it seems to fit. We're talking about the judge himself, that the judge himself who messes up in judgment, Hashem should restore and bring back honesty to judgment. So I think that answers.
Well, the judgment here seems to be Hashem judging. It says, those who go astray shall be judged according to your will. The judgment is according to Hashem's will, not their judgment. So I think that the ones who went astray might be the tzedukim, and the minim, the heretics. That was the next verse, which raise your hand against the wicked.
Just one second. I'm not sure what you answered. Could you just repeat what you just said? I didn't understand what you said at first. So yeah, I told you what Rashi says.
Yeah, you're saying that those who went astray. Yeah, you're saying that the ones who went astray, that's referring to the judges, because it says the word judge. But in here it says those who go astray shall be judged according to your will, according to Hashem's will. The judgment is Hashem's judgment, not necessarily that they were the judges who went astray. They were people who went astray, and they were judged according to Hashem's will. Because in the beginning, maybe they weren't necessarily wicked, like the next phrase is referring to the minim, the heretics who were wicked. But the tzedukim in the beginning, they weren't necessarily wicked. They just went off the path. They went astray because they accepted Torah. They just didn't accept Torah, the oral Torah. So they went off the path. They went astray. And the judgment is referring not to their judgment, but to Hashem's judgment, that Hashem is judging them according to his will. Okay.
So what you're asking is the word yishpaitu. It sounds like they're being judged. That's your main point, that yishpaitu doesn't sound like the judges, but rather Hashem is judging them. Is that your sort of like main question on what Rashi says?
No, actually, just a clarification. It is the way Rabbi Steinsaltz translates that the judgment is Hashem's judgment, not their judgment.
Right.
But the going astray is referring to people that weren't wicked. They weren't wicked yet. They were like, they went off the path.
They're on their way to go to become wicked, and
right,
Hashem
like the tzedukim.
And Hashem should straighten them.
Right.
So according to your understanding, what you're questioning and thinking that maybe it means, so you want to say that this refers to the bracha v'lam al shinim for the tzedukim, and then what about the bracha of Hashiva Sheftenu for the judges? When is that going to be mentioned? In other words, according to you, I think you're skipping that bracha. I mean, and regarding your question that you're asking on Rashi, I think the answer to your question is those that are going astray it doesn't sound like it means judges, which you're right. That's why Rashi initially doesn't want to say that. But then Rashi says, no, this is how you have to translate it. That it's referring to the judges, that Yishpaitu, Hashem should direct them to judge properly. So it is Hashem. Hashem should help them judge. Yishpaitu, he should, the way Rashi translates it is Hashivam, return them and to teach them to judge like your will. We're asking Hashem to make them into good judges. Or Yishpatu. They should judge properly. That would probably be the way to read it, actually. So you know what? I'm actually I'm emphasizing it slightly differently. Translate it this way. Hatoyim, those that are going astray, those judges, al daitcha yishpatu. They should judge according to your wishes. So I'm just putting the comma 2 words before. It's not hatoyim al daitcha. It's hatoyim comma. Hatoyim al daitcha yishpatu. I think that fits even better. In this way, if you read Rashi, he says, "V'hatoyim b'mishpat al daitcha yishpatu." They should judge according to your wishes. Hashivam lalamdam lishpait kidvarecha. Return them to judge according to your wishes. But that, according to that, it fits. Everything fits perfectly. You have that bracha fits right there, and then the next bracha is for the lamalshinim. Does that answer your question, David? I think it actually fits better now. Hatoyim al daitcha yishpatu. Okay.
I'm not sure what the art scroll says, but the Steinsaltz
doesn't translate it that way.
Yeah, he says that they shall be judged according to your will. They shall be judged like a nifal, as opposed to a different grammatical term.
Right. The thing is that there's no vowels, so
right.
We do have a license to vowelize it. How the commentaries translate it. We could, you could vowelize it however it fits according to the commentaries. In other words, they're able to translate it as long as it could be vowelized that way. But I'm just wondering how the Rabbi Steinsaltz is. So you think that he means the bracha of Olam Alshinim there? But if he does, then he's skipping the bracha of the judges. That's my question to you. If you're translating that way, I don't have a Steinsaltz, so. I don't know what he says, but it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like he could skip that bracha. That bracha is necessary.
It just says, those who go astray shall be judged according to your will.
Yeah.
And then it goes into the punishment of the wicked.
Of the wicked.
So I was thinking the ones who go astray is relating to anybody, not just the judges. And the judgment is Hashem's judgment.
Yeah. So, but according to that, if it's including all different types of people who go astray, but that doesn't fit the bracha of Hashiva Sheftenu much. I mean, are you going to fit that into Hashiva Sheftenu bracha? Take a siddur and think about it. Is that how you're going to translate it? That it means people who go astray should be judged by the judges. That's the purpose of the judges. And the next bracha is for the wicked. So that's how you want to translate it, that it is fitting in this bracha, but it's really judges should judge the people who are heading astray. So that's like the purpose of the judges is more for people who are heading astray.
I'm thinking that even if you want to say that they're judges, the whole point of their judgment is to judge according to Hashem's will. So it could apply to judges, it could apply to regular people who went astray. Yeah, but the word is that judgment. Is it Hashem's judgment or their judgment? But I just thought it was a differentiation between the tzedukim and the minim, between those who went astray and those who were wicked.
But I don't think you can say that because according to that, it's fit. You're skipping the bracha. In other words, we're looking to summarize each bracha of the Shemona Esrei into like 2 words, and so we got to figure out which words are going to be for the blessing that's king who loves righteousness and justice. Which, how you're going to fit, which of those And I don't think that it could fit that way. I mean, definitely doesn't fit Rashi. I mean, maybe he found other commentaries who he's explaining it according to, but yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Rabbi?
I mean, the truth is,
Relax, Ben.
the first Rashi, which says Hatoyim ha'ivim al Barecha, those that I guess you could try to fit it in. I wouldn't translate it as minim versus sedukim, or I wouldn't translate it that way. But what you could say is and maybe this is what Rashi's initial translation was, that Rashi backs out of. He says the Rishon is Iker, this is Iker, but he backs out of this. But he initially says that it refers to people who transgress. They should be judged, meaning that Hashem should judge, who loves righteousness and justice, should judge those that are going, that are on their way going astray, similar to what you're saying. But I wouldn't use the term the minim or the tzedukim for this. I would think that this is sort of like when Mashiach comes, he's going to direct us. We're going to have judges, not really to judge us. It's going to be more like yoyatzim, to yoyatzenu kvatchila, our counselors of yore. So what is the counselors? They direct you in the right path. So that summary of this blessing is going to be that Hashem should direct us. We should be judged, meaning directed into the right path. Those that are going astray should be or should be judged if they're doing evil, but if they're sinning, but not like the Lamashina bracha is wickedness. This is someone sins. They should be punished. The Lamashina is for like the wicked, the informers, this is someone who's who strays, who's straying. They should be judged, and that's how he's translating it. But Rashi likes the pshat, the explanation that it means it refers to the judges. There should be honest judgment. So it's not really going about sin or not sin. It's more about justice, monetary laws, or other, and anything that has to do with justice. Okay, Ben had a question for a long time, I think.
No, I wanted to say the meaning of to'eh in Hebrew has two meanings. It's either astray or wrong. Like you make a wrong decision, or you lost.
Now,
in your ways.
Is it spelled the one?
That's the meaning of it. But so the judges, when they make the wrong decision, that's to'eh.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's not that God's judgment is the judge's judgment is wrong. And if the people went the wrong way, they're also to'eh.
Now in the Talmud, normally the to'eh, that's a mistake, is with a tet, not with a tuf.
Yes, I thought they're both with a tet.
No, but here we're using a tuf, to'eh. So I would like it to say the to'eh with the tet, because then it would fit perfectly with the judge that makes a mistake.
But what's the meaning of to'eh with a taf? I don't know.
To'eh is like it says by
one errs in one way, and the other one means it goes astray. They're two different
words.
So
to'eh baderech. In the Chumash, you have to'eh with a tuf. To'eh baderech. Okay. Yes. 1 second. I think Robert had his.
No, go. I defer to Ezra.
Okay, Ezra.
Ben, I'll take it.
Ezra. Okay.
So the actual Hashiva Shofetenu Kebarishona. Okay, so please return our judges as they were in the beginning, which means that they have gone astray. And so here it says Torim al datecha ishpetu, and I'm looking at Steinsaltz in the Hebrew. He makes there's no entry next to the word yishpetu that indicates it's anything other than there's either a shva underneath the peh or a tzere underneath the peh. Whatever it is, it's yishpetu. It's not yishpotu or yishputu or whatever else. So
If it's
he's
God, then
translating it.
Ishafetu. If God will
continue.
judge them, Ishafetu.
Just one second. Let me listen to Ezra. Ezra, yeah, please just.
So this
tell me
is
what you're
this is the reason why I say it's talking about the judges,
Right.
the ones that go astray. Let them learn to judge according to your way of thinking.
Right.
Okay, that's the literal translation. To
So
me.
is it saying Hashem should direct the judges? Al daitcha yishpatu. They should judge according to your way. Al daitcha yishpatu. Okay.
Because of the actual bracha that it's replacing.
Right. We want the judges to judge according to Hashem's will.
Right. So
Okay.
that's what I think it's meaning. It's this.
Yeah. So okay, very good. Good. Yes, Robert.
I just, this last 2 weeks, let's say, the intensity of the conversation and participation has been really excellent. But what I'm troubled of is, after reviewing how many months we've been dealing with Brochos, this section, this time and place, to me, is very important in the evolution of praying, and those who are then defined to being either on the wrong page or on the right page, for a lack of better description. So I'm just wondering, is this time within our discussion or the recording of the Brochos, where we're dealing with all of this, is an exception to other discussions that others have had in this book? What I'm trying to say is that, to me, this is a very fundamental discussion, and it's very deep relative to what our future as Jews and the formulation of prayers are. And so some of it is very severe against other people. They don't know what they're talking about, or then they become heretics. So I'm just wondering, is there any identification of this within the continuum of defining the law or our prayers, of any distinction from any other discussions that we have had or have had within Brochos? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So this chapter is a chapter that is a very practical chapter. It happens to have application in our day-to-day living, in day-to-day praying. And so you will find this tractate in general to be more connected to our daily life than many other tractates. And specifically, this chapter is much more connected to our daily living. But I will say that the entire tractate Brochos, since the beginning of this tractate until now, you will find that if you look into the first volume of the Shulchan Aruch, we have touched upon many of the first 150 chapters of the Code of Law have been touched upon in our classes.
Right, but this point in time, the argumentation is very severe between the different rabbis and scholars, all the students. And it's like two different camps warring as to what's our future going to be. So I just find it very heavy in the formulation of our future in praying.
Well, I don't know about the future, about how to pray,
Or the constitution of the prayers,
the way they established it, right? Yeah. The way they established it then.
Right.
You're going back to the time of the Talmud, which was before the year 500 CE. So during that time, that's when these discussions happened. So we're already been doing whatever they've concluded. We've been doing now for 1,500 years.
No, I understand that, but I just see this moment in time, to me, contrasted to what we've done before, is light compared to this is a sort of very profound discussions and argumentations. And again, what the tenor of it is sometimes it's like life and death. Either you're with us or you're against us, or you're a heretic or you're on pay. So I just find this to be interesting and troubling at the same time.
And
if anybody else,
question, please.
All right. Well, to be continued. That's a more of a long-term conversation.
Right,
Every so
right.
often, we'll have to touch upon it and think back about it. Yes, Susan.
Why did they want to shorten the prayers to have them abridged? Why?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Why does Rabbi Yeshua feel that it should not be such a regular? The Shemona Esrei should not be as long as the initial plan, or that the way the way they established it initially with all 18 brachas. Why would we sort of like change it and abridge it?
Why?
And that is an interesting question. I would say that Rabbi Yeshua probably felt that maybe people are not able to handle the intensity of the concentration. That would be what the thought that comes to mind. It would be, it's
Rabbi,
maybe too much for a regular for every day.
All the temples have a minion of people
but that's
that go and do that. Do the you know what I'm saying?
No,
Susan, here in the Mishnah, it basically says, okay, right before this entire discussion, it says, Haholech b'makom sakana. So if an individual goes in a place where it is dangerous and it's time for him to daven, and he can't stand there for 5 minutes or 10 minutes davening the long Shemona Esrei, he says, say this.
So it's for safety's sake.
It's for safety's sake, and also if you come, you come on the time on the end of the time of davening, and you don't have the time to say the entire thing, then say this. Is it the preferred way? The answer is no. But if you have no other choice,
okay, is there judgment against the person if they don't follow the prescribed way, and there's no reason for them not to?
I don't know if there's. I can't say anything about judgment. All I say is that next time, be careful. But in a situation where you are in danger,
Ezra,
or yeah,
you're talking about the end of the prayer of the Mishnah, which is called Tefillah Ketzara. Susan is talking about Habinenu, the Me'en Shemon Esrei. So Me'en Shemon Esrei, Rabbi Yeshua does not say you only say it in that scenario. Rabbi Yeshua is arguing with Rabbi Gamliel in the regular day-to-day life.
Right, that's what I'm asking.
And he's saying there that you recite this prayer regularly. And so Susan is just wondering what would his reason be, especially because it sounds like that this prayer is based on the original full-fledged Shemona Esrei.
Exactly.
So if the prayer is based on the full-fledged Shemona Esrei, you would think, you would think that there must have been some type of establishment of Shemona Esrei, and then Rabbi Yeshua is sort of like minimizing the importance of it, or for some reason. And so the Meiri does bring down that if a person is tarud, is busy, is confused, is overwhelmed, he could exempt himself, even though the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah established the Shemona Esrei Brochos completely. And
okay,
if a person is the tarod, he's so there. It says he's able to say this me'ain, which you I think you translated very nicely. It's the essence of the Shemona Esrei, since all the brachas are included in it. And so that's Rabbi Yeshua's opinion, that not that you should always, but when a person is a little overwhelmed, he's tarud. Now Rabbi Akiva says that if your tirda, if your overwhelming, if your busyness is if it doesn't stop you from being able to concentrate, you really have to do all 18. That's Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Rabbi Yeshua says no. Once you're a little overwhelmed, just do the abridged version. Rabbi Akiva says no. If you can still have in mind, concentrate, you got to do the whole thing. If you can't concentrate, then you got to do the full thing. So that's the way the Meiri explains it. So I think that sort of answers the why how it worked and how Rabbi Yeshua is really saying. In any event, we have here these two opinions of what this me'ain, what this the abridged version is. And the first opinion was that you're reciting all 18 brachas, you're just skipping out the middle of each of the paragraphs. And Shmuel is saying, no, it's a whole new version that's merging all of the few words from each of the paragraphs into one blessing in the middle, and then 3 in the beginning, 3 in the end. You have 7 blessings. And the Gemara then discussed the issue of Havdalah, that you can't recite Havdalah in this prayer, so you can't say it on a Saturday night. And that's where we're up to. I guess I will have to stop here. My time is up, and sorry for going overboard. Yeah, overtime. Yes, Ezra.
An asterisk to what you just said, because as you know, the Sfardim have 2 different prayers for Barechenu and Barech Aleinu. So what we're told is for Barechenu, you can do exactly this, the main Shmona Esrei. But if you have to say the total Barech Aleinu, which is the total, you can't make this short prayer because there are too many things involved within the Barech Aleinu.
Yes, correct. Sorry for interrupting you. Yeah, but the next Gemara really mentions exactly what you're saying. So that's right. Thank you for bringing that up.
I didn't mean to start trouble. I didn't mean to make surahs for anybody. It just was, I'm just inquiring as to why this all started, the abridgment. It's just.
Yeah, it's a good question. A very good question. Okay.
No,
Everyone have a wonderful day.